Okay, so we were discussing the topic of volume studies, and we have covered uh, some volume characteristics, and then we moved on to the limited network studies. So limited network is the network which is affected by a major traffic generator, and uh, then we discussed how to do limited network study using the control and the coverage counts, and then we did some examples in which we calculated adjustment factors and expansion factors. Then we discussed the concept of vehicle miles traveled, okay, which tells you about the importance of the highway. Once you have the network, once you have done the study, okay, once you do the study, then you can represent it in the form of a network flow map. So the map which you see on the slide here, let me go to full screen. So the map which you see on the slide here is a network flow map. So it's a simple map of the area, okay, more or less. And you see the names of different streets here, okay. And then you see the volume of each segment, either on the street, okay. So this one 400, this one has 2800, and so on.
No.
Okay, and if there's no space, then you can see the number beside the road, beside the segment. Okay, so this is a network flow map. Another important thing about this network flow map is the width of the streets. The street width is dependent upon the volume itself. So for example, if you take this, now this is what they're calling as Francis Street. So normally, if you have one, if it's the same street or the same road, the width is the same. But if you look at this road, so this one is narrower than this one, not because of the actual dimension, it is because of the volume. Okay, so this one has more volume, so they made it wider. This one has less volume, they made it narrower. This one has even less volume, so it is even narrower. And then you can see the scale over here as well, a scale for the width according to the volume. But scale is not a standard, you can develop your own scale, but the important thing is that in a network flow map, the width of the street should change according to the segment volume, the segment flow. Okay, now we move on to statewide counting programs. So first of all, who does the statewide counting program? Statewide counting program is done by the state, the government, or any authority who is responsible for the highways and traffic management. What is so when the government is doing it, so then they are doing it for all the roads. So the entire road network is part of the statewide counting program by default. Okay, because the government has jurisdiction on the entire network. Now, why do we do a statewide counting program? Or the government does statewide counting program. The first thing they want to know is AADT. Okay, now what is AADT? Can someone tell me what is AADT? Yeah. AADT, what is it?
Annual average daily traffic.
Yes, it's annual average daily traffic. So they want to know the average annual daily traffic on each segment, and then it's annual, as you said, average annual daily traffic. So it's annual, so it's the entire average of the entire year. But we have seen earlier in this chapter that traffic changes in different traffic changes in different months and seasons as well. Okay, so the government is also interested in the shift in ADT, average daily traffic. So how the average traffic changes from 1 month to another month, one season to another season, and so on and so forth. And they also want to find out vehicle miles traveled for their segments. So I mentioned yesterday, vehicle miles traveled basically tell you the importance of the highway. So obviously this is important for the government. This is useful for the government because according to the importance, they can plan their budget, their resources, their maintenance activities. So vehicle miles traveled for a local street will be less. The government will give less focus and less budget and less resources to a local street as compared to, for example, Sheikh Salman Highway. Okay, so they also the objective of the statewide counting program is to find out these three items mainly, but obviously it is not limited to these three items. These are the main most important items, but it can be many other things as well. Okay, so before they start doing the counting program, the government has to locate the functional classification or find out the functional classification for each of the route. Now, according to the function, what types of highways we have? Tell me. We have covered functional classification of the highways in this course and the highway engineering course both. So according to the function, what are the types of highways? Yeah, anyone? The types of highways.
Maybe collector arterials.
Yeah, and collector arterials and what? Anyone else? So there were collectors and arterials and local roads. Yes, local roads. Okay. So these are the three types of highways, and then you can have these in urban areas and rural areas. Okay, so the government, first of all, they will have their road network, the entire road network on a map, and then on that map they will locate which segment or which road is collector, which one is arterial, which one is a local road, and which one of them can be urban arterial, which one of them can be rural arterial, and so on and so forth. So this is the first thing that they need to do. Then something which we discussed for even limited network study as well, that once you find out the type of road, then for each type of road, you will establish a network of control counts and coverage count locations. Okay, so for example, I have 150 segments of urban arterial roads. So for those 150 segments, I will select some locations as control counts and the other locations as coverage counts. And I will do the same thing for the other types of highways as well. So for each type of highway, you will find out the control count and the coverage count locations, and you establish which one you will take as control count and which one you will take as coverage count for each type of highway. Okay, now there's a similarity between statewide counting program and limited network study. The similarity is in both of them you are counting volumes on segments. Okay, and in both of them some locations have control counts and some locations have coverage counts. So this is a similarity, but there's a difference as well. The difference is in limited network study, the counting is done once. Okay, and obviously it's for a limited network, but for a statewide counting program, it is a continuous process which continues the whole year, and it is done or it is repeated every year. And as I mentioned earlier, this is for the entire road network. Okay, so the main there are some differences between limited network and statewide program. First of all, the network itself, limited network is obviously a small network. That's why we call it limited network. Statewide, the entire country. And the second thing is limited network study is done once. So you did the study now because the client told you, okay, I need the count for 1 week, and you did the study for this 1 week, the running week, and that's it. Your work is done. You don't need to do it, again next week or the next year. But statewide counting programs they keep on running throughout the year. So their count keeps on running. So that's why we calculate ADT, right? So because it's annual. So annual means that you need the count for the whole year. So once you get the count for the whole year, now you cannot sit down. Next year you start over again. Okay, so till the judgment day we will be doing this. Okay, so it's an entire year program and it's repetitive. Now there are some guidelines about the counting locations. The first guideline is that after every 2 mile you should select or you should set up a counting location. After every 2 mile you should select or set up a counting location, control count or coverage count, one of them. Except, so there's an exception, except for segments which have very low traffic. And how much is low? Which has ADT less than 1000 vehicles per day. So you found a segment which has less than 1000 vehicles per day ADT. So next year you don't count for that segment. That segment is exempted. Okay, no counting needed for that segment. Okay, the basic rule is counting after every 2 miles, and the exception is if the ADT less than 1000, then don't count. Okay, for each location we need to find out AADT as I mentioned earlier. And then there was a ratio between control count and coverage count location. For the limited network study, the ratio was up to 1:20. You can go up to 1:20. But for statewide program, the network is very big. Okay, so number of segments are many times higher than limited network. Okay, so like if the number of segment was 100, there it will be in thousands. So we have given more flexibility in the ratio. So control count to coverage count can go up to 1:50. The ratio can go up to 1:50. Obviously, if it is lower, it is better. But the higher limit is you can go up to 1:50. Okay. Control counts for statewide program can be of 3 types. Now remember, there are 3 types of control counts. Coverage counts are then the same which we discussed for limited network. So control count itself is divided into 3 types. We have permanent control counts, we have major, and we have minor. Okay, permanent control counts, major control counts, minor control counts, all of them control counts. Okay, for coverage counts we have a minimum period. Okay, and then we have a more preferable period, you can say. The minimum counting period for coverage counts is 2 hours. Okay, and you can go up to 48 hours or even more. Okay, so more is better, but less than 2 hours not allowed. Less than 2 hours not allowed. So all coverage locations must be counted for at least 2 hours. Okay, if you want to do more, fine. Okay, this is a map which is showing some counting locations in Bahrain from 2015. So obviously it must have changed. Okay, but you can see if you zoom in the slides, you can see the highways which they usually or they used to monitor. Okay, and the types of counting locations I mentioned here. So permanent sites are permanent locations, permanent control counts. School sites are basically intersections. So they are for monitoring of the signals, basically. They are signalized intersections. And then we have temporary sites. So temporary are like coverage locations. Okay, continuing with the guideline. So I told you earlier there are 3 types of control counts, right? 3 types of control counts: permanent, major, and minor. On permanent locations, we use fixed detector, which will collect data for the entire year. And I mentioned earlier in lecture 4 as well, that when you collect data for the entire year, then it is not possible to take the detector to the office to download the data. So that means the data is collected and it is transferred through some channel to the control office. Okay, to the authority, to the control office, or to the ministry directly. Okay, so we use permanent detectors on permanent control count locations, and then those detectors collect data and transfer the data on real-time basis without taking the detector to the office. For major and minor control counts, we use portable equipments. We have talked about portable or pneumatic road tubes earlier. Okay, so we use them. okay, on major and minor control counts. Okay, so permanent control counts, permanent detectors. So you have the entire of data. Major and minor, you have portable equipment. So you install the equipment, collect the data. Once your work is finished, you take the equipment with you to the office and get the data. Okay, so this is for major and minor. Now on major control count locations, data is collected every week. Sorry, not every week. Data is collected 1 week of every month in the year. Okay, so every month you go to the major control count location, set up your equipment for 1 week, and you collect data for 1 week from that location. For minor control count location, the data is collected for 5 days, and as you may remember that whenever we say 5 days, we are basically mean the weekdays. So data is collected for 5 days for every season. Okay, now season means a period of 3 to 4 months. Okay, so don't say that in Bahrain season doesn't change, so we will only collect it once in a year. Okay, it's not related to the weather conditions. Season means the traffic variational seasons. Okay, so after every 3 to 4 months, you collect data for weekdays. Okay, so permanent throughout the year, major 1 week every month, and minor 5 days every season. Okay. Now, you may remember we calculated adjustment factors for limited network studies. We use adjustment factors in statewide programs as well. Okay, so today we will look at the adjustment factors. So the data which you see on the slides is taken from a permanent control location. So they had the data for the entire year. Now they're giving you what? The day of the week. Okay, and for that day of the week, they are providing you the average volume, vehicles per day. Okay, so how did they find it? So they had the data for all 365 days. Keep in mind, it's a permanent location. Data is for the entire year. Now, in 1 year, you have lots of Mondays, right? Lots of them. Although we don't like them, but there are lots of them. Okay, so more than 50. So from those 365 days of data, you separate the Mondays. You take out the Mondays. Okay, and then you take the average of those values only. The values which belong to Monday. So that average is given here. Then they did the same thing for Tuesdays. From 365 days of data, they only separated, not only, they separated the data of Tuesdays, and then they calculated the average of Tuesdays only. So this is the average traffic for Tuesday. Okay, got it? Did you get how they have collected the data? Any questions in the data which I'm showing you? Is it clear? Okay, the data is clear. For every day of the week, I have an average value, and that average calculated for the entire year. Okay. Now, for this, they are asking me to calculate the adjustment factor for each day of the week. Okay, like we did for limited network study. Yeah, thank you, everyone. Thank you. Like we did for limited network studies, we were calculating adjustment factor for each day, right? There was the adjustment factor for Monday and Tuesday and so on. In the same way, we will calculate adjustment factors here. Okay, but the values will be obviously slightly different. Okay, now let me do one thing here. So I will write the day and I write the average traffic. Okay, so that we can do the calculations. Okay, so Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 20, 6, 1800, 89, 575, 1275, 13. Okay, First of all, I will calculate AADT. So whenever you have a statewide counting data and you want to calculate adjustment factors, the first thing you calculate is AADT. Now AADT is the total traffic of the entire air divided by 365. Now in this case, they have already done the average for each day. So I don't have to take the data of the entire air. Okay, if you take the data of each day and then you add them, so then you divide by 365. But each of these values is already an average of few days of the year. So I will only take these averages and I will take their average. Okay, so that will become AADT. So AADT will be the average of these 7 values now. So they have already done the average of each day of the week. Now I will take the average of the entire week. Okay, from these averages. So this will be my AADT. Okay, so give me the average of these values now.
One 1430.
1430. Okay, thank you. So now we will calculate the factors, adjustment factors for each day. So they call them daily factors. Now if you remember, how did we calculate the adjustment factor for limited network study? We took the average of those days divided by the traffic of that day. Okay, we took the average of those days divided by the average of that day. Divided by the traffic of that day. Now for a statewide program, when you're calculating adjustment factors for a statewide program, instead of taking the average of few days, we take the average of the entire year. So we'll take 1430. Okay, divide by the traffic of the day. But obviously, like I mentioned earlier, we are not talking about one day of the entire year. So instead of taking the traffic of one day, I'll be taking the average traffic of that day. Okay, so instead of taking the traffic of any Monday, I'll be taking the average traffic of Monday, which is 1820. So how much is this now?
0.79.
79 or 76? 79?
79.
Okay.
0.90.
Okay, so then you do the same thing for the other points as well. So in this case, then AADT will remain the same. You just divide by the traffic of Tuesday. Okay, go ahead.
1.02.
1.02.
1.10.
1.
1.11.
1.
1.12. 1.07.
Okay. Any question from anyone regarding the procedure? You can check the values later on, but did you get how did we calculate the adjustment factors? Okay, good. Moving on. Now, you can see this graph is between the daily factors and the days of the week. So the same factors which you calculated. So they plotted the factors and then they are showing it with the curve here, the line here. Now you can see the Monday factor is the lowest and the Saturday factor is the highest. Now what does it tell me about the traffic? If Monday factor is the lowest, that means the traffic on Monday is what? Okay. And again, the same question for Saturday. The Saturday factor is the highest. Then the traffic on Saturday is what?
That's mean in Monday it's low and in Saturday it's high.
The
Traffic?
opposite.
If the yeah, say it.
On Monday, the traffic is the highest.
Yeah. So the factor is inversely proportional with the traffic because you are taking the traffic in the denominator, right? The traffic of the day, average traffic of the day is in the denominator. So when the denominator gets higher, the factor gets lower. So lower factor means traffic of Monday is higher. The higher factor means traffic is lower. Okay. You can see it over here. Monday traffic was the lowest. Oh, sorry, Monday factor was the lowest. Monday traffic is the highest. Saturday traffic is the lowest. Factor is the highest. Okay, because we are putting the traffic in the denominator. Okay. In the same way that we calculated the daily factors for each day of the week, you can calculate the monthly factors as well. So this data is also given from a permanent location, and now they have given for each month. So like we calculate the daily factors, now we will calculate the monthly factors. Okay, and instead of giving us the average traffic, they gave us total traffic. So this is the total traffic of January, total of February, total of March, and so on and so forth. Okay, so this is a total traffic now. Okay, so again, I will go here to the, yes, I'll do it over here. So we have the month. Okay, and then we have the total traffic. Okay, 2, 1, 2, 3, 5. Two 5 8 8 5 2 6 2 8 0 2 7 6 5 2 8 6 2 0 2 6 3 5 0 0 2 1 1. Okay, so again, now we need the adjustment factor for each one. We start with the AADT, calculation of AADT. So now you have total traffic, remember. So they did not do the average from their side for anything. This is total of each month. Okay, so AADT is total traffic of the entire year divided by 365 days. Okay, so you have the total of each month. You take the total of all these values divided by 365. Okay, so give me AADT first. Okay, why I'm adding the values? Because these are total values now, and then I will divide by 365 because each value then represents 1 day. So they did not do the average. In this case, for the previous example, these values were already averaged for each day. Okay, here there is no average. So I want now, so it will be sum divided by 365. The sum of this divided by 365. Okay, just keep in mind not 12, not divided by 12. Okay, so 797. Okay, now I will calculate ADT for each month. Okay, so I need the number of days in that month because I need average traffic of the month. So traffic of the month divided by number of days in the month. So January has 31, February has 28, and 31, 30, 31, 30, 31. August has 31, then 31, 30. Okay, so these are the days in the month, and obviously you just see the calculator. Sorry, you see the calendar, and you will know how many months, how many days are there in each month. Okay, so I need ADT of each month. Then I'll take the traffic. For example, traffic of January 19 840 divided by the number of days in January is 31. So how much is this now? $640. Okay, so same thing for February and March and all the other months. Okay, so tell me the values for the other months as well. So the traffic of the month and divided by the number of days in the month. 591. Okay. Then 810. Okay. Eight, seven. November, December.
Doctor, for October 850, not 817.
August is 968. What is September?
For November, it's 743.
Now what is September? Nine.
701.
Okay, December is how much?
701.
70. Okay. Now we have the average of each month and we have the ADT as well, so we can calculate the monthly factors. So it will be the ADT 797 divided by the average of that month for which we are calculating the factor. So 640 here. Is it?
Doctor, for September, it's 923.
Okay. Now we can move on to monthly factors.
Uh, 1.25.
Okay.
1.34.
1.34.
1.
How much?
1.16.
6.
0.98.
0.98. How much per minute? Yeah.
Uh, 0.95.
0.95.
Okay, next.
0.91. 0.89. 0.82. 0.84. 0.94. 1.07.
The last one will be 1.13. 1.3.
So this is how you calculate it. Okay. Any questions regarding the calculation? You can check the values later on. But any question, how did we calculate each of the values? Clear? Okay. Now, one thing. Looking at the AADT, okay, should we include this segment in our future studies? What would you say? Should this segment be included in future studies? What would you say? This one. Or we should calculate all these things. Yeah. Yes or no? Should this segment be included in future studies? Yeah.
It's less than 1,000, so no.
Yeah, it should not be included.
We didn't include it, yeah.
We should not. We did we did the study of the entire year, right? Okay, but now I'm talking about future. So in future, you should not include it because you found the AD to be less than 1,000 per day. Okay, so in future, this segment should not be included. Okay, so this was like a side note. They did not ask for it. Anyways, and if you plot the factors, then you can see the again the same thing. The factor is highest for February because February has the lowest traffic. And the factor is lowest for August because August has the highest traffic. And this one is not 0, okay, because the scale is starting from 0.8. Okay, so the axis is at 0.8. So the factor is not 0. You know, none of the factor is 0. Okay, now we stopped here. Mashallah, you guys did it faster than the other section. So maybe you I should be taking online classes with you. Okay, so you guys are better with online. Anyways, so we'll stop here because I stopped here for the other section as well. Tomorrow you have the exam at 2 o'clock. I'll meet you at the first floor, building 15, room 208, 206. Okay, and you'll see if we need another room. Okay, but we will be on the first floor, inshallah. 2 p.m. start. Okay, you come before that, and no classes. Obviously the exam is in your class time, but even for section 1 there will be no class. Okay, so I will meet you in the class on Tuesday, but the exam is on tomorrow at 2 p.m. Any questions you have? Anyone has any questions? Everything is clear? Okay, don't go. I need to download your attendance. Okay, so yeah, you are welcome. So see you guys tomorrow, inshallah. All the best for the exam. You will need it. Okay, assalamu alaikum.